Yeah. We will start the meeting. Thank you for coming to the special board meeting of the Calexico Unified School District. It is Tuesday, October 30th, 2012, and we will be starting at 6:10. Ms. Burgos, can you call roll call?
Trustees present tonight are Valenzuela, Romo, and Duarte, with Trustee Kim and Aguilar absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Burgos. Mr. Valenzuela, can you lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number C, approval of agenda. So moved by Ms. Romo, seconded by Mr. Valenzuela. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion passes 4-1. Let the minutes reflect that Mr. Kim is present.
4-0.
I'm sorry, 4-0. Item D, comments from the public. The board will only take comments from the public related to the sole items on this agenda. Ms. Ambriz? Just the, comment.
All persons are encouraged to attend and participate in meetings of the Calexico Unified School District Board of Trustees. Please fill out a form available at the door and submit to the Secretary of the Superintendent prior to the meeting. Your comments will be heard with no action taken under the designated section of this agenda. For all presentations, the presenter will limit his or her presentation to 5 minutes. Public comments will be limited to 10 minutes total, and each board member will limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. Each presentation, including public and board member comments, shall not exceed 20 minutes. For the record, state your name, title, whom you represent, and the agenda item you are addressing. You're not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. The district will not respond to your comments at this time. Your questions, concerns, and/or input will be referred to the appropriate department.
Thank you. Ms. Burgos, let the minutes reflect that Ms. Aguilar has just shown up. Okay. First speaker for comments from the public is Mr. Chad Cooper.
Understand the purpose of today's meeting is to reflect on last year. One of the many measurements the school district uses and the state uses as test scores, and I encourage you to listen to your superintendent. I had a good discussion with her last week about how test scores are just that. It's just one small indicator of a teacher, student, school success, and there's things to be celebrated in each classroom and things that need improvement. And as a teacher, I completely agree with her stated philosophy in that closed-door meeting. I hope she shares it with you tonight. What I want to talk about is some of the things that the school district did that hurt our students last year. And impact test scores. One thing that happened was detention was frozen. Students were allowed to misbehave with no consequences. So why listen to the teacher when there's no consequences? So that's something that was done. Paper. I find it ridiculous that we had to chase around paper last year. When we're not given new textbooks and new workbooks, the least that could happen was given paper. It's ridiculous that we live in the first world and we have to be thankful for paper. Textbooks are very old. Some classes had a hard time getting them. Class sizes were record high levels. The bigger the class size, the less individual help a teacher can give. For the last 3 or 4 years, the school district rifts too many teachers. And I know there's too many teachers riffed last year because most of them are back working right now. When a rift teacher comes back, oftentimes they're placed at a different school, different grade level, and instead of running full speed ahead on the first day of school, they're getting to know their coworkers, get their classroom set up, and they're a couple years behind. What I mean by that is if you go from teaching 6th grade to 1st grade, it takes you a couple years to become a proficient 1st grade teacher. Doing that unnecessarily shouldn't have happened. That also wastes a lot of money on legal fees. Academic and social counseling is very scant and hard to find. Students have big problems in their life. And teachers don't have time to counsel, and the counselors have been fired and not brought back. Kids cannot learn as well as when there's a counselor. Also academic counseling, not just social, and I don't know if social is even the right word, but when kids are having trouble at home, they need extra support at school. Last year, tutoring, this one's the biggest one. Tutoring was stopped. We being the teachers, used to be able to keep kids after school and tutor them, help them get up to grade level. Last year that was stopped. When I've got 8th graders that are reading at a 4th grade level, they cannot do their homework without extra support. If they're not getting that extra support at home, their test scores are going to go down. The academic support teachers were pulled from the classroom. Those teachers were sorely missed. A lot of support was missed. Lack of rewards in the school. I talked about detention at first. There needs to be a reason to behave well at school. We need curriculum supply support. Last year I brought to Mr. Fergali the idea of having teachers do ACEs tutoring. Instead you had hard-working 19, 20, 21-year-olds that aren't trained teachers trying to replicate what we do in the classroom. That was a really bad idea. This year, the school board set a bunch of goals on a Sunday in July. I read them today. Most of them haven't been followed, or if they've been followed, they weren't done. And I know that teacher input wasn't taken. So again, I believe everybody in this room wants to improve what goes on in the classroom. You can't do that without talking to the people in the classroom, the teachers. So that Sunday board meeting, and I wasn't able to go. I'm busy on Sundays. So it's hard for me to comment on it, but paying a lawyer hundreds of dollars to chart things that are going to sit on a website, that's not a good use of money. Later on in the agenda, you're going to pay the ICOE to help us improve. I've talked with each of you board members. I believe the ICOE hurt us last year. They were one of the obstacles stopping us from doing what we could do. To give money to an organization that I believe last year actively tried to step on this district, I don't think that's sending the right message. We can find support somewhere else. So, again, teachers in Calexico want input. I know Ms. Ambrose is new on the job. Hopefully, we'll get some new faces in here as well. But you got to talk to us and you got to listen to us. Bringing in someone else new with a clipboard, it's not the solution. We got to work together on a solution. Okay? And I do believe that most teachers are doing their best job, most parents are doing their best job, most kids are trying to do their best job. What we need is more support in many different ways. So I hope that tonight's not a blame session. I hope it's some a way we can work together on improving everyone's academics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper, I have two more for you. One on item E. Would you like to speak again before the presentation?
Won't take 3 minutes. API is a very reasonable measurement. Every year we make progress. AYP is a national effort. You could take a newcomer at far below basic, move them to basic. On the AYP, you get 0 points for that. AYP is very unreasonable. It thinks 80% of the kids should be proficient. I like that goal, but it's very unreasonable. Next year it goes up. By 2014, it'll be 100%. Every school in America will be in program improvement. So although program improvement, I think it should be a goal for everyone at all times, I do not want us to walk around with our head down that we're a PI 5, PI 6, whatever. PI is baloney. API, much more reasonable. One thing I didn't mention before, when you move the primary language kids from De Anza to Willie Moreno, those kids have lower test scores. One of the reasons De Anza went up and Willie went down was because of the primary language. Don't blame those kids, it's not their fault. But I want to bring that to everyone's attention, that primary language learners do worse on English-only tests. And I hope the school board's reasonable. The other thing I want to mention is at my school, I've got this year, Kiki Camarena, there's primary language learners that aren't getting PL instruction because they don't have transportation to Willie Moreno. So we've got kids that are, in my estimation, lost. When there's help available, and what's stopping them from getting help? A bus ride across the city. And I don't know. I don't know if that's come to the school board's attention or if I've got the full story, but I believe I have the full story. So there's a lot of things that emanate from the district office level that the teacher cannot control. And so please, let's place I don't say blame. Let's place responsibility where it lands. It's not the teacher's fault that kids can't get a bus ride from the east side of town to the west side of town. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question on that comment. I'm sorry, the PL instruction. Why is it only given at Willie and not at Kiki Camarena?
Before I arrived in this district, I inherited a program that was based at Willie Moreno, which is the PLI Institute, to my knowledge. In terms of the rationale for it, from my understanding, was that everyone was based at that school and they were being transferred from this side, the students from Enrique Camarena requiring that the PL Institute would be transported over to Willie Moreno in order to centralize the program for the junior high. Since then, however, the transportation department mile radius was changed, and therefore the students no longer qualified for transportation. And so the students from Enrique Camarena that wished to or that needed to participate in the PLI Institute would have to provide their own transportation. And that was
Is that
a previous directive.
Is that an all-day instruction?
They received their PL courses such as science or social studies in their primary language, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Mrs. Williams can explain in more detail what's in the program. And then they also receive their language arts or ELD within that program as well. They are not just with one teacher. They do travel to at least 2 to 3 different teachers depending on the course or courses that they are taking that require primary language.
Ms. Aguilar.
A couple of questions. How many students are we talking about?
I'm not aware of how many kids are in the PL Institute right now. I could ask Mrs. Williams.
Not even an approximation?
I couldn't give you an approximation at this time.
Now, the other thing, I thought that the limitation of the radius was based on, like, taking them in the morning to school and after school, not necessarily within the school day.
Well, I know that there is overloads, or from Rockwood to Kennedy, or vice versa. But I don't think this board was aware of that.
The reason I'm
PL
saying,
Institute
well,
just
let
being in
me
one
just
side.
use this rationale. Say, for example, we send students that need services from Vista Sands. Do we provide transportation for them?
Yes.
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 Okay, so using that same rationale, couldn't we provide transportation to these students as well?
But that's paid from special ed funding.
Well, but there are students and they need our services.
Mrs. Aguilar, like Mr. Cooper said, it's not about laying blame or responsibility. However,
I'm not.
no, let me finish my statement. We received an administrative directive
Okay.
from our former superintendent that stated that there would no longer be transportation.
So, board never informed on that one. We approved the program in the William Moreno, but the school district not gonna provide the transportation for the kids for the William Moreno, and board not informed for that.
Well, I think the question should be is, why isn't Enrique Camarena getting the PL Institute?
I believe that at the time that Enrique, when they divided the institute, it was because the majority of the students that were in the program were residing in the Willie Moreno residential area. That is my interpretation of the facts. And so the limited number of students residing in the boundaries for Enrique Camarena did not constitute a full program.
Yeah, but that to me is wrong, because we're
Absolutely.
depriving because of where they live. And if we can provide the studies at, I mean, this is a district-wide school, it's not, we're not charters. We're district-wide, but we will talk about that.
So we have a possibility to provide it to transportation for that.
We could put it on the next board agenda.
And
Okay.
and
Well-
the other thing was, if I recall correctly, the PL Institute originally, or was situated at Willie Moreno, at Dianza Academy before it was relocated to Willie Moreno, correct? Correct. And so when it was at Dianza, we had people coming from both sides of the town, correct? Correct. All right.
My understanding, if I may, and again, I was not
Yeah, please.
correct. The PL Institute was moved to Willie Moreno last year. For this year, we have provided parents with transportation information. My understanding for since I've been there this school year is that every parent that has come in with a request for transportation, we have provided them with the application and we submit it to the transportation department. So far, I have received good feedback from the parents stating that they were approved and that the students are being picked up. I'm not aware of any parent that has approached me saying we have not been providing transportation, unless there's a few PL students from last year that did not submit an application for the current school year.
So then what I understand from you is that we are doing it.
There
You are
is a bus.
receiving students?
They're being picked up at Kennedy Gardens and at Rockwood. They do have to walk and make their way all the way to Rockwood. I spoke to a parent not too long ago, somewhere on South 2nd Street, east of town, and she said, well, you know, it's a long walk, but at least we make it to Rockwood, and from Rockwood, they're picked up. And again, every parent, we've had newcomers, new students, but every parent is given a transportation application, and the feedback that I have received is they've been approved and they receive the transportation services.
Okay. Madam President, I've just
Thank
been
you for
reminded
clarifying.
Is this for the next?
But that one from the
that
William
we're
Moreno
in
side
public
only.
comments, and so
Yeah, but thank you, Ms. Williams, for clarifying that there is a program for Enrique Camarena. It's a parental choice.
Yes,
If they
correct.
want the kids to. Okay, so we're
Correct.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item E, presentations. Ms. Humphries. Okay.
Good evening, board and community. I do want to concur with a lot of what Mr. Cooper said, but one of the major points that I want to touch upon is that he is correct that tonight should not be a blame session, and it is not intended for that. He and I did have a closed-door conversation last week regarding what my philosophy was on education and what my philosophy was on accountability measures. One of the things that I shared with him, and I will state that publicly as well, is that assessment measures that are provided, that schools must take to determine their growth, obviously are provided by our state. Whether we agree with them or not, we need to administer them because that is the requirement. Do I believe that an assessment system that technically tests everyone in a one-size-fits-all manner, is that an appropriate measure for students who don't learn the same way? Absolutely not. Unfortunately for all schools, all districts, those are the measures that we must abide by. And with that in mind, or having said that, I will continue with the report of academic progress for this past school year. The goals and objectives for tonight, there's three major ones, or three basic ones. It's to present to the Board of Trustees and the community the overall progress of Calexico Unified, to present to you also the overall progress of individual school sites in our district, and to present to you the plan proposal, which is the MOU for improved academic achievement for Calexico Unified. And our objectives is that you will receive this overall progress report for the district and the sites, and where we will identify the areas of growth that we've had and the areas of needed improvement. Based on these areas is that our expectation is that the board will approve the plan proposal for this improved academic achievement. As you may be aware, our API this year came in at 705. I was happy to see the API at this because to me we broke into the 700 club. That's how I look at it. We break into the 700 club. And if we look at the progress that the district has had over the years, that is a growth. It's a small growth. We were supposed to grow a minimum of 5 points based on what I presented last spring, I believe, and the district grew 6. Is it small? Yes, but it's incremental, and it demonstrates sustainability at this point because over the last 6 years, that's the direction that Calexico Unified has taken. Small growth, incremental growth, sustainable growth. Is it huge? No. Do we have work to do? Absolutely. Is it work of only the teachers in the classroom? Absolutely not. It's the work of the teachers in the classroom, the students in the classroom and the students at home, the parents at home, and the administrative teams at the site levels, at the district level, working together and devising the plans and collaborating on these plans to make sure that the growth, if it's not going to be huge, that they be incremental and sustainable. Okay, so go back, I'm sorry. And the second slide is just a reminder of how the API is determined by the state. And it's a 5%, I'll just read that off, an LEA and school site API growth target is 5% of the difference between the most recently earned API and the statewide goal of 800. Of course, the API can go up to 1,000, but the goal that the state determines is having achieved would be 800. And so based on our last recorded API, for the 10-11 school year, we received a 699. So the difference between 699 and 800 is 101 points. 5% of 101 is 5.05. So therefore, they don't round down, they round up. So they want us to go for the 6 points, and that's exactly what Calexico achieved on the API. This next slide just is a table that shows how we did LEA-wide, district-wide. Again, did we meet our target growth? District-wide, yes, we did. We were to grow 6, we grew the 6. In the Hispanic Latino population, because we are primarily Hispanic, we also met that target. Socioeconomic disadvantaged group, as you can see, that group grew significantly. And the next one, which is the English learners, did not grow. There was a drop in the English learner subgroup district-wide, and you will see that there's a drop in many of our schools, if not most of them. And then students with disabilities, district-wide, they made a significant growth. And there was a significant growth in all of the schools within the students with disabilities. To what do we attribute that? I'm not sure. Maybe Mr. McFadden can offer us more in a future board meeting. But as you see the slides with the schools, the students with disabilities are not referenced on there because individually within schools, they are not a significant subgroup. They're a significant subgroup within district-wide numbers, but at some schools, they're not. Anything under 100 is not a significant subgroup. So we don't want to point them out in that format. Next slide. If we look at this slide, LEA-wide, this is our a graph of the API for the last 6 years. If we start from 2006-07, if you notice, there is 1 year missing. It's the 2009-10 year. That's the year of the earthquake, where our scores were, for those schools that did take them, I know some schools took the test, but not all of the tests, et cetera. So they just went ahead and did not count our scores that year. That unfortunately didn't give us a baseline for to follow on the following year. However, having said that, if you look at district-wide numbers, there has been a growth of about 49 points or so over a 6-year period. Is it huge in terms of what schools want to yield? Probably not. Is it significant? Yes. Is it incremental? Yes. Is it sustainable? At this point, I would say yes, because there hasn't been a drop. It's been incremental. The next one, district-wide, I'm hoping I didn't mess up these numbers, but again, students with disabilities. Over the 6 years, there has been a 94-point growth in API for students with disabilities. Again, significant, incremental, sustainable. And it's just working hard. The teachers, the special education teachers, the psychologists, meeting with parents, developing those IEPs, and making sure that the students are being assessed with the accommodations and modifications that are allowed in their IEPs, that are used in the classroom throughout the year, and that they're allowed to use also on the assessments, helps these students go into an assessment scenario where they're comfortable with the modifications that they're being given. One of the reasons I say this, for example, when I was in charge of testing at Calexico High School as an assistant principal, for assessments, one of the kids they could listen to it on audio tape. Well, and they could have that where it's read to or on audio tape in their accommodations or modifications. However, if that's a practice that was not used consistently in the classroom, when the students were testing with these accommodations and modifications, they were more of a distraction than they were a service to the kids, because they were fidgeting around with the technology. They wanted to do, listen to music instead of the test, et cetera. It was a constant monitoring of are they using the accommodations and modifications properly. So to me, a 94-point growth indicates that the special education department and personnel are working together with the parents consistently, and it's a reflection in the scores. The next slide shows our socioeconomically disadvantaged student population. They've also made some significant gains. Over the period of 6 years, it's been significant. Would I say it's sustainable at this point? Maybe not completely sustainable, simply because there was a drop in between 2 years. However, after the drop, there was another increase. So that's a plus for our district in terms of our underserved students. What could be a trigger of possible increases? That the schools that are in program improvement do provide supplemental educational services to the parents for the students. And a lot of our students do take advantage of that. And in addition to, all the schools implemented different strategies such as tutoring, such as personalized instruction, different lesson modifications, professional development that was targeted for this population in general, and then English learners that we're going to see in a bit. So that's a positive for our district, that there is an upswing with our general SES population. When we take into account that this number is growing throughout our district, and that's a result of the fiscal situation through our county and the state. The next one is our Hispanic Latino population. Again, it goes hand in hand with our overall school district-wide results, because the majority of our student population is Hispanic Latino. And again, over the 6 years, there has been a 50-point growth in API, and I would venture to say that at this point it's been incremental and sustainable. And then the next one is where we're going to have to pay more attention to individually as a district and at the individual school sites, and this is for the English learner subgroup. If we look over the years, there has been growth. There's been a 39-point growth of API over the years. There was a drop this year in the API. It was a 3-point drop, not very significant. But some schools, individual school sites, did experience significant drops in this area. So this is an area that we really need to pay very close attention to, because our English learners are not just your recent immigrants. Our English learners are not just somebody who's been here 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You have people who are what you call your long-term English learners, your LTELs. They've been here since kindergarten, and they may be 10th graders, and they're still considered English learners because they haven't met reclassification criteria. Yes, ma'am.
Do we have ongoing programs that help these students, and is there data that indicates why they reach, junior high school level without having attained fluency?
There is plenty of research statewide and nationwide regarding our English learners, especially your long-term English learners, and why they don't reach proficiency. I can tell you just as an educator, a lot of times it's a lack of understanding of who. I think one of the major issues is the lack of understanding of who your English learner is. For example, sometimes you say your English learners, and a lot of people immediately trigger in their mind, oh, ELD, the kids who came from Mexicali or from Tijuana or from China or a year ago. No. Your English learner can be somebody who entered kindergarten, first grade, etc., and hasn't met the reclassification criteria. And it's not just language-based, but language obviously is a big issue, the literacy. There's also, if the kids are not progressing academically in terms of receiving fluent grades in English in your core areas, and without the practice, etc., the odds of them achieving their proficiency becomes greater. And as you get older, sometimes you hear the kids speaking it fluently. That doesn't mean that they write it well. That doesn't mean that they read it well. And it's not just an English learner, because you have English-only students who have problems with reading and who have problems with writing. So we kind of blur the lines there, because you think they've been here for a long time. You think, okay, well, Norma speaks very well, but her writing is not very good. But we sometimes blur the line of who your English learner is with the person that's an English-only student, or because they've been here for a long time.
Okay.
But we can get much more data on that.
Thank you.
The next few slides, several slides, are on individual school progress. Now, the first school that I have here is Blanche Charles. I have the SW, which means school-wide. The HIS, LAT means Hispanic Latino. SES, socioeconomic disadvantaged. And EL, your English learners. Now, if you look at Blanche Charles, it has, you can go to the next slide. It has made significant school-wide growth over the last 6 years. Since 2006-07, they've made an 82-point API increase. So they have made sustainable growth over the years. For their Hispanic Latino students, over 6 years, they've grown 82 points, 83 for the low socioeconomic, and 88 for English learners. So has this school made growth? Yes, it has. Now, if we look, however, the next slide, it shows that although Blanche Charles has made significant gains over the years, if we compare the last 2 years, there has been decreases. Between 10-11 and 11-12, there's a 3-point decrease in their API. Between 10-11 and 11-12, there's a 4-point decrease in the Hispanic Latino population. And again, your school-wide and your Hispanic Latino will generally go hand in hand because of our high Latino population in our district. SES, there was a 15-point increase. And English learners, there was an 11-point decrease. So that's reflected, obviously, in these charts. Now, if you go back to the chart, Eduardo, thank you. If you go back to the chart, I drew that blue line at the top just so that we can be reminded of where our highest point was and where we are from it now. Obviously, with Blanche, we're not very far from that mark. Of course, we want to, our goal is every year to either meet, and actually meeting is not the word. Our goal is to exceed that blue line. You know, so our goal for this year is to make sure that we do everything we can to get Blanche Charles students to exceed that blue line. And if you notice the purple bar, and I want you to pay attention to the blue bar and the purple bar, in all of them, of course, but primarily the blue bar because that's the school-wide population, and the purple bar because that's your English learner population. Okay, there has been an increase all the way along in just about all your populations every single year. There were little drops this year for Blanche Charles, but our English learners are still the gap is still wide for our English learners. Okay. The next school is Cesar Chavez. Now, I can't go as far as 6-7 with Cesar Chavez because it wasn't open at the time. So if we take into consideration the growth that Cesar Chavez has made over the years since its inception, which is 07-08, that was their first testing cycle, it's met moderate to good sustainable school-wide growth over the past 5 years. They've grown 41 points. This year, however, the last 2 years, well, this year there was a 1-point increase from last year. So work to do, obviously, but all of our schools have room for improvement. It's not just Cesar Chavez or any other school. And again, Cesar Chavez has sustained its improvement. There hasn't been a significant drop anywhere, and it's just a matter of continuing to focus their interventions, continuing to focus their professional development, and continuing to focus the individualized and differentiated instruction for their students. And so over the years, go to the next one, Eduardo. Over the years, over the last 5 years, the Hispanic Latino students have grown 47 points at Cesar Chavez. And your socioeconomic disadvantaged student population has grown 47 points as well. And your English learners have grown 35 points overall. And then on the next slide, we see the growth between 1 year to the next, the last 2 years, 10-11 and 11-12. So between 10-11 and 11-12 school-wide, there was a growth of 1, Hispanic and Latinos growth of 1, socioeconomic growth of 19. And this trend is pretty pervasive throughout our district, the growth for the socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And then your English learner, there was a drop, a 7-point drop. Okay. Our next school is Dual. And I want to reiterate to the community that this is not it's not a blaming session, because it's not what it is. It's discovering that we have areas of need and investigating how we can better serve our students, how we can better assist our staff. And that's really what this is all about. School-wide, Dual has made intermittent levels of positive growth over the years. However, as a school, it has reflected a 45-point decrease over the last 6 years. So we need to be very careful with this. And in the past year, 11-12, it does reflect an 8-point, it should say increase, I think. Yes, it should say increase instead of decrease. Where it says, however, it does reflect an 8-point decrease, it should say 8-point increase. So between 11-12 and 10-11, there was an 8-point increase. However, going back to the last 6-year trend, 43-point drop for Hispanic Latinos, 45-point drop for socioeconomically disadvantaged, 40-point drop for English learners over the last 6 years. And then if we look at that chart right there, from last year to this year, if we recall last year, Dual did have a significant drop in its scores. And this year, Dual's efforts to improve are evident. But because their decrease had been so significant last year, they're actually recuperating from their negative points. So it's not, as evident when you see the bars and graphs, but when you see this chart, you can see that there is growth. There has been improvement. School-wide, they improved by 8 points. Hispanic and Latino improved by 9. Socioeconomic improved by 27. RELs dropped by 2. But again, when you compare it to the previous year, it's actually more of a slight improvement from what happened last year. I'm not making excuses. It's just, it is what it is. And I do want the board to recognize that there are great areas of need for Dual, like for all of our schools in the district, but there has been growth. Okay. Our next school, and this is the school that yielded the highest growth this year in terms of API. It's not the largest API number, but it's the largest growth, okay? And this is Jefferson School. Over the last 6 years, it's made significant school-wide progress. It's made, I believe, a 76-point increase over 6 years. And this year's API is a 20-point increase from last year. So again, if you look at the blue bar, you see that it's continuously going up. If you look at the purple bar, it's continuously going up. There's still a gap between the purple bar and the blue line, but obviously it's narrowing. As you can see, the numbers are reflecting increase. So over the past 6 years, how has Jefferson done? Hispanic Latino students, 77-point increase. Socioeconomic, 76-point increase. English learners, 63-point increase. And then the next one with the chart reflects from 1 year to the next. There's a 20-point increase for school-wide, 20-point increase for Hispanic and Latino, 27-point increase for your socioeconomic disadvantaged students, and a 7-point increase for your English learners. So this is one of the schools that, although not a huge growth in the English learner population, there was a growth. And so it's reflected in their scores. Mane.
Excuse me, clarify for me. In Dual and Jefferson, I remember 2 grades, kinder and
first
grade is
yes.
for Dual?
They were, kinder and first grade do not test in any school. So second through 6 was at Jefferson.
Jefferson and Dual. 2 grades, no?
El kinder y el primero no
Yeah, kinder and...
No, I know,
Okay.
I remember.
Jefferson
but,
School
it's
students...
less responsibility. It's very different. 700 student, 500 student, no? I understand, kinder and first grade.
Okay.
But it's less student, only.
Okay. Well,
It's very
just for the
different,
record,
the responsibility. Okay.
yes, Dual had the kinder and first grades from Jefferson. They are not attested grades. Those are grades that don't get tested. And by the same token, and again, this is not a blame session, so I won't address that further. It's not a blame session. Okay. The next one, Kennedy Gardens. Okay. This is a school that has been posed with some challenges as well in terms of its academic progress. Over the years, over the 6 years, it's made a small growth. It's growth, but it has been small. It's been a 6-point API increase over the last 6 years. However, this year's API as a school, as you can see the blue bar, it was a 23-point decrease. Okay, and over the past 6 years, there has been significant growth in some areas. Growth from regular to significant, and one of them is the Hispanic Latino grew by 7 points, socioeconomic by 17, and your English learners in this school grew by 34. So as a school, it didn't grow. It actually, school-wide, it dropped points, but as a school with English learners in it, it has demonstrated growth of 34 points over the last 6 years. Okay, and then if we look at the blue chart, sorry, and if you look at the blue chart, we see what the growth has been between one year and the other. It went from a 700 API in 10-11 to 677 in 11-12, demonstrated a negative 23-point growth. And then the Hispanic Latino population also went into a negative 22-point growth. Your SES didn't grow, it didn't drop. It stayed the same, and the same for the English learners. It didn't grow and it didn't drop, it sustained. So there were different issues to address with Kennedy Gardens. Main school. Again, if you look at this school, it's
Kick butt.
yes, you could say that. However, if I were to look at this chart right now and tell you that this has been sustainable growth, I can't say it's been sustainable growth over the last 6 years, because if you look at the chart, there were small drops, but there were drops between 7-8 and 6-7, and between 8-9 and 7-8. However, it's gone in the upward direction since 08-09. It's gone in the upward direction, and the goal of the school is to stay above that blue line, meeting or exceeding that blue line. And you know, they did extremely well last year in their API. They grew by a good amount of points this year. Mrs. Lopez, I think, was slightly disappointed. She was going for the 100-point growth, and you know, she got, I believe, 17 points or so. I'm not sure exactly. I'll tell you what it was in a minute. And it's a reminder to her and her staff that it's to stay the course with what they're doing. Stay the course, continue to analyze what worked, what didn't, and keep going forward, because it's demonstrated in their results. And so it's a school that has made growth over the last 6 years. If we go from 06-07 to today, it's been a 29-point growth, taking into consideration the dips that they had to take over the last few years. And last year's growth compared to the year before was a 7-point growth. And then the Hispanic Latino was a 6-point growth from last year to this year, 19-point growth for the socioeconomic disadvantaged, and then a negative 7-point growth for the English learner population. However, over the 6 years, your Hispanic Latino has grown by 30 points, your socioeconomic disadvantage has grown by 28, and your English learners have grown by 24. So this is just a demonstration of what continued hard work and addressing individual needs of the students will result in, what it will yield in results. When you go to Rockwood, you're going to see more of the same as what you saw at Maine's. And this has been a school that has gone up and down over the years. But again, after 08, 09, there was a significant drop between 7, 8, and 8, 9. But after 08, 8, 9, or 08 and 9, it has gone up. And again, it's staying the course and continuing to analyze the data. Over the last 6 years, there has been significant growth at Rockwood. There's been a 68-point increase since 06, 07. The Hispanic Latino population has grown 71 points. Your socioeconomic has grown 69, and your English learners have grown 56. And then with that in mind, between 1 year to the next, you have an 11-point growth for the school-wide, 13 for Hispanic Latinos, and 20 for your socioeconomic, which with a slight dip with your English learners of a -3. Next school, we're going into the junior high arena, Enrique Camarena. It's been up and down over the years, over the last 6 years. And if we really measure between 06, 07 until 11 and 12, there has been a 12-point API decrease. And this year's API is a slight decrease from last year, but it is a 7-point decrease from last year. And then the subgroups were actually decreases over the last 6 years. 13 points for Hispanic Latino, 13-point decrease for socioeconomic disadvantage, and a 16-point decrease for English learners. And if we look at the last slide for Enrique Camarena, the only slight growth was socioeconomic disadvantage by a growth of 4, but school-wide we had a growth of -7, Hispanic Latinos growth of -7, and English learners, and even though they didn't have the PLI, had a growth of -20 for English learners.
They did have the PLI.
They did not have the PLI at Enrique Camarena last year. But they also did not have very many primary language students last year. They probably have more this year than they had last year.
Really, 39.
Okay, next one, Willie Moreno. Also a school in flux over the years. It's gone up and then it's gone down. And it was going consistently up for 3 years, and then it's gone consistently down the last 2. It has not made it sustainable school-wide growth over the last 6 years. There's a 19-point decrease since 06, 07, and this year's API is a 7-point decrease from the previous year. And the following are also decreases for this school: 17 points for Hispanic Latino, 18 points for socioeconomic disadvantaged, 32-point decrease for English learners. And then if we look at the overall picture for between 2 years, from 10-11 to 11-12, there was a -31 in API school-wide, -31 for Hispanic Latinos, -17 for socioeconomic, and -39 for English learners. Our Dianza 9th Grade Academy. It has made school-wide growth over the last 6 years. There's been a 48-point increase from 06, 07 to 11-12. There have been increases with the subgroups as well. 47 for Hispanic Latinos, 47 for socioeconomic disadvantaged, 39 for your English learners. So there was an increase, a consistent increase, and there was a significant drop. And again, they went back to a significant increase. Our goal is that they can narrow the gap and actually exceed that blue line. If we look at De Anza's numbers from one year to the next, however, the numbers were very strong. Blue chart. Okay. If you can see, there was a school-wide growth for De Anza's 9th grade academy. 34 points for a school-wide between the 2 years. 33-point growth for Hispanic Latino, 53 points for your socioeconomic disadvantaged, and 26 points for your English learners. The next one, and Aurora High School. Alternative education is very near and dear to my heart for many reasons, maybe because I was a principal at a continuation high school for a few years, and this is probably one of the most rewarding places a person could ever work at. An alternative high school is not a school for throwaway kids. And a lot of people view Aurora High School like they view other continuation high schools as a site where you're going to remove the kids who are causing trouble at another school. And really, that is not the purpose of neither Aurora or any other continuation high school. Continuation is to provide students a second opportunity, or a third or a fourth, for that matter, to thrive, to learn to become learners. Because the students who end up at Aurora primarily are not students who cause trouble. They are students who become so disenfranchised with the regular school setting, and by regular school setting I mean a comprehensive school such as your De Anza site or your high school site. Because Aurora is generally a school that is by law for 16 years, students who are 16 years old or above. These numbers are not reflective of, and I'm not making excuses, they're not reflective of the potential that you have at a continuation high school. They are reflective of a student population that is in constant move. But I see, if you look at these numbers, it's a true reflection of students who are learning to become learners. They're actually learning to focus their study skills, they're learning to focus their reading skills, their language skills, their writing skills, their mathematical skills. And you would say, well, they should have learned it in 3rd grade or in 4th grade. A lot of times, these are the kids who are quiet in your classrooms. They're quiet, and because they go under the radar, we don't really know how serious their academic deficits are until they are drowning and they are not meeting their high school graduation requirements. And so this is just something for you to look at. And it, as a school, Aurora High School has not made school-wide growth over the last 6 years. It's made a 3-point API decrease, 6-point decrease for Hispanic Latinos, 3-point decrease for SES, but it's made a 4-point increase for English learners. Why this is important is because API and AYP is definitely not a fair measurement system for a continuation high school, because if Mr. Moreno's here, he can probably tell you that the students he has today may not be his students 2 months from now. They may not be his students 6 months from now. And they'll probably not be his students a year from now. You're measuring totally different students every single year. And so this is just my pitch for an improved Aurora High School, and for us to be just weary of the numbers that we read on Aurora. There's a negative 3-point growth for school-wide, negative 3 for Hispanic Latinos, negative 10 equally for socioeconomic and English learners. Our next one is our flagship, Calexico High School. Calexico High School has demonstrated overall significant growth, 65 points over a 6-year period. Slight drop 1 year, but went back up this past year. So if we can keep that trend going at Calexico High School, Calexico as a school will break the 700 club easily next year if they continue to focus their interventions and their professional development for the staff. If you look at the increases that Calexico High School has had over the last 6 years, 66 points for Hispanic Latino, 64 for socioeconomic disadvantaged, and 33 for your English learners. And the last slide says that all areas for Calexico High School were a point of, all subgroups were a point of growth for Calexico High School this past year, with a 17-point growth school-wide, 18 Hispanic Latino, 32 for your socioeconomic, and 11 for your English learners. Having said all of this, do all of our schools have a lot to be applauded? Absolutely. Absolutely. And like Mr. Cooper shared with you earlier, when you measure your AYP and your API, you're not measuring apples and apples. You're not comparing the same things. AYP really is about who is achieving proficient or above, which is great because that's what we want for all of our students. But when I talk about the students that you have at Aurora High School that are learning to become learners, you have students that have academic, and I don't even want to call them deficits. They haven't learned some skills that are necessary to take them to the next level. So if you've got a student who's a third grader who in second grade achieved far below basic, and then in ELA or math or whatever subject, and then the next year achieves a higher score, but it's still far below basic, well, yes, it's disheartening that they're still far below basic, but there was growth. AYP doesn't measure that. That's not the growth that it measures. AYP wants to know if you're proficient or above. If you have a student who is a far below basic in second grade and third grade is far below basic, and then in fourth grade he makes a big jump to below basic but on the border with basic, AYP doesn't recognize that growth. Did the student make growth? Absolutely. Should he be applauded for those efforts? Absolutely. But that's not how the AYP system works. So that's just something for us to caution. Now, because we are a Title I district, because we do receive Title I funding, then we do have to work with AYP, and we do have to work with whether or not we are meeting those federal targets and our statewide targets. And with that in mind is the next piece that Dr. Spencer will share with you in terms of program improvement and what that means for our district. Because if I'm not mistaken, we have been labeled a program improvement district year 3, and there's at a moderate level, and Dr. Spencer will explain that in more detail. So that is one of the reasons why we urge the board as a district to allow us to enter into a memorandum of understanding with to approve the contract with ICOE. What ICOE has to offer is that it does have great experts in our field that work for ICOE. They're able to broker big names. They're able to broker people who are nationally renowned in their fields, especially of English learners, because if we can narrow the gap with English learners, we will narrow the gap in all areas. If the students can understand what they're reading, if they can write in the English language, if they can learn to write fluently, speak fluently, and understand the language fluently, then I'm not going to say that we're all going to become miraculously proficient and above, but I can tell you that there will continue to be marked growth. And in a time where we have reduced staff, you know, we are reduced in the areas of our teaching ranks, in the areas of our administrative ranks, then an external entity coming in to assist and help with our professional development is something that will help our teachers and our site principals and our district administrators to better focus the instruction for our students here in the district. One of the things that I urge you to look at is that The English learner population, as you could see throughout the district, is a needy population. That doesn't mean that none of the other ones are. But a lot of your English learners are a part of your school-wide population. So if you can improve the English learner subgroup results, you're going to improve your school-wide population results. Your English learners are also part of your Hispanic and Latino population. By default, if you improve your English learners, you're going to improve the Hispanic Latino subgroup. Your English learners are also a part of your socioeconomic disadvantaged. If you improve your English learners, you're going to improve by default your socioeconomically disadvantaged student population. I'm going to allow Dr. Spencer to continue with the next part, and I am going to ask the board to excuse Mr. McFadden for the rest of the evening, unless you have a question for special education. He has a very, very important engagement that he cannot miss, and I allowed him to leave at 7:15 if it would be okay with the board.
It's okay, Mr. McFadden, you are free to go. I would just like to congratulate you and your team for having a successful year last year. And all the schools had a successful year according to these scores. But your department did do a tremendous job this year or last year with the test scores and everything else. So thank you, and thank your department on behalf of this board also. Ms. Spencer.
Let's talk about program improvement. We've talked about where we are, and let's talk about where we want to go. Program improvement is it on?
I left it on.
Now is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Have to push the right button. Program improvement is one of those things that is set upon us by the federal government. It goes along with the NCLB. It came out of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. It requires schools and LEAs that receive Title I funds to be identified for program improvement if the AYPY criteria is not met for 2 years in the same content area or on the same indicator. Assessment results are disaggregated to ensure that no group is left behind, and you've seen the results of that on Ms. Embreese's charts. LEAs in schools that fail to make AYP towards statewide proficiency goals are subject to improvement and corrective action measures. And next slide. So a Title I school will be identified for PI when, for 2 consecutive years, they don't make the goals in either the same content area or for any numerically significant subgroup or for grade spans. And basically what's happened to our district is we have not met those goals. Eddie? This year we have been identified as a year 3 in program improvement for the district. Our schools are at different levels, but our district now is a level 3 school. What that means is there are some things that have to happen. We have to notify parents and the public of the corrective action that is going to be assigned to us by the State Board of Education. There are 7 possible sanctions that they can take. They've taken the same sanction with everyone over the last 6 years, so hopefully that will be, or it's expected to be, the same sanction that we face. The second thing is we have to revise the LEA plan to document the steps to fully implement the action plan to meet the sanction that we have. And the last one is we need to continue to reserve at least 10% of our Title I funds for professional development. So those things we have to do anyway. November 7th, yes?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you describe a sanction?
Well, the sanction
what particular-
is coming up. Actually, I've got it all lined out in just a couple
Okay.
of slides for the one that we expect.
Okay, thank
There's
you.
a school board meeting for the State School Board of Education on the 7th, and their agenda is already posted. That's how we know that we're identified as a moderate Year 3 school. If you were a district that had 12 schools and only 2 of them were in program improvement, you would have been probably identified as a light school, and you wouldn't have had the district assistance and intervention team. But we have all of our schools in program improvement, so we were listed as a moderate. And that means that there will be a date team that we need to, identify and contract with. On the 7th, basically, they will say which sanction. Sanction 6 is recommended, and they have also identified us as moderate. Go ahead. For the moderate sanctions, for that, the steps that we have to follow, all students have to have a standards-based and standards-aligned curriculum. It used to say that that all of our instructional materials had to be standards-based and SBE approved, and that's changing this year. Basically, now they're saying they have to be Common Core aligned, and the materials have to be keyed to the Common Core. That's not only our textbooks, but our intervention materials, and all of our supplemental materials need to be tied to Common Core, and that's for kindergarten through 12th. Go ahead. We have to provide appropriate professional development, and that includes, but not limited to, focus on standards-based, standard-aligned instructions and materials, implementation of the Common Core state standards, and the use of effective instructional strategies. From the things that the board has approved in the recent months, we have focused on professional development already. That's been one of the big things that's been going on with us this year as far as targeting our funds. We need to target the instructional needs of students not meeting proficiency targets. Ms. Embreese talked about the English learners. We also have students with disabilities who are progressing, but we should target their subgroup also. And if we have any other racial, ethnic, or socioeconomically disadvantaged student groups not meeting standards, we need to target the kids that need the most help, basically is what that means. Ready? We need to revise the LEA plan, document steps to fully implement corrective action 6. We need to address a date provider. We need to contract with a date provider. Then we need to go through a needs assessment with them, and we need to address their recommendations in our LEA plan. We need to document support for schools who have been in the program improvement for more than 3 years and to implement corrective action and restructure for those schools. We need to submit the locally approved LEA plan to CDE at that point. We have to submit the plan to CDE by March of 2013, and we will post it on our LEA site, on our website when we do that. And then the next step is to monitor that plan. So we will have to submit reports mid-year and end of year to CDE after we've accomplished that. But basically, we are in a position where we will do a needs assessment, we will come up with a plan, and we'll work to implement that plan. Any questions?
The textbook we approved the last meeting, we might have to hold it to see if it meet the standard from the state.
On the Common Core standards, we have already seen documentation that matches our current state standards to the Common Core standards, and most of those are pretty well aligned, sir.
So we don't have to hold the order?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Are there any?
Yes, and the other one is, I believe that on the PI3 status, if the parents want to go to another school district, we have to allow to them, and even we have to provide the transportation for them.
That's every year, Mr. Kennedy.
That's each year, sir.
Each
That's a
year?
continuation,
That's
and it's by
been every
school.
year.
It's been every year.
Yeah.
The parents have a choice, yes.
But a lot of parents also complained to me, they were blocked it from the district, said we're not going to allow to go another school district because the another school district has a PI2.
No, Mr. Kim, they have the right to transfer their student to another school.
Mr.
have
Kim,
a-
and for the board, any student, if we're in a PI district such as ours, any student or family has the right to request public choice at another district.
Yes.
However, us allowing them and them being received by the other district is one issue. Not all districts that are not PI have to take all of our students. They could say we're only going to take X amount of kids, etc. We're required to provide the transportation. Now, if we are a PI district and they're requesting to go to another PI district, then we could, on the basis of they are requesting to leave our PI district to go to another PI district, then at that point we could not honor at least the transportation at that point, because you're leaving a PI district to go to a PI district. That's not sound rationale. If you're going to abandon a PI district for quote-unquote a better education, then the logic would reign that you're going to a non-PI district.
Okay, so we have responsible to provide the transportation to go to non-PI school district.
Absolutely.
But same to PI,
We are not
don't
required.
have to
We are not.
provide the transportation.
Absolutely.
Okay, but parents didn't ask for transportation. The parents wants to transport from the school Calexico to other school district. They were denied because what she keeps saying is, because same PI, we're not going to allow it. Finally, she got approved it. They got approved it several times. Has to be knocking the door to forcing us.
Well, again, the rationale is if you're going to leave a PI district to go to another PI district or another PI school, then that's not sound rationale for allowing the transfer. However, with that frame of mind, why do you want to keep a student or a family who doesn't want to be here? And on that ground, we could approve that.
Yes.
That's not necessarily allowed by law, but we could approve that. For example, I approved an inter-district transfer yesterday for a student who wants to go to one of the high schools in El Centro. Happens to be a PI school. And the rationale was because the student is doing poorly here. Okay, so if the student is doing poorly here in a PI district, and he's going to another PI school. I approved it, but I also gave the parent an explanation that my approval does not indicate that Central Union High School District will approve that transfer, because they have the right at the end of the day to not accept a non-district student for their district.
Yes.
Okay, just so you know.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Ms. Romo?
Dr. Spencer, what was the corrective plan in the 2011-2012 last year?
The corrective plan that we had?
Yeah.
We
I
had-
don't remember what plan, corrective plan for the last year.
We established an LEA plan back in 2008-9. There was one written, and there was an addendum done to that in 10-11. Last year, the goal was to follow that plan because...
Excuse me, plan for each schools? I don't remember.
Oh,
For each schools?
For every year, we do a single plan for student achievement at each school. The school site council works through that. And so we have a plan for each school.
This big.
Yeah, there,
I don't remember what is.
yeah. We do that each year. And that's the reason we have school site councils, actually, is to develop that plan. But in the years that I was mentioning, we developed a local education agency plan, an LEA plan. It's posted on the website for the original plan, and the addendum that was done in 10-11 is posted there. Some of the things were not followed through last year based on the cash flow issues that we had, and we weren't able to spend a lot of the money that's focused for the improvements are categorical funds. And last year, because of the cash flow issue, we weren't allowed to spend those the way that we needed to, honestly, to stay afloat. So that was the problem last year with that. But this year we have to go back, and what we'll do is look at the addendum from 10-11. That's posted on the website if you'd like to see it. It's a very involved document. It's got a lot of really good ideas in it, things that we hope that we can incorporate into the new plan. I don't think that we have to start from scratch. I think that we start from the plan that we have and work on that to get things that we can actually implement and follow through with. But, yeah, this is an every year thing.
I do remember sitting in your office going through that binder, a couple of binders.
I have 12, I have one for each school.
Yes.
So everyone does it. And we did a school site council training on I think it was the 18th, to start with the school site councils on their product for this year. And we have another training coming up the 14th or 15th? The 14th of November. We have some of the other councils that we're going to train then. So,
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Or a couple of them anyways. Overall, these slides identify the things that we as a district have to do, corrective actions and contracting with date teams and
Yes.
providing professional development along with revising LEA plan and submitting evidence. What heading the opposite way, what kind of documentation, what kind of accountability will we have from the date team?
That we get to establish part of. There are certain things that the date team is responsible for. They're responsible for helping us with the needs assessment, for helping us identify where our largest needs are. And then they will help us with an implementation plan. They will be part of our LEA plan as we develop it. Then they will help us implement and monitor.
So is that implemented into the contract?
It will be. Yes, ma'am.
And will we see it before it?
It would have to come through you.
Yeah.
There's a list from the state, it's a page long, of the different companies and the different organizations that qualify as date providers. We've worked with one of them already. I know West Ed is a date provider. ICOE is a date provider. Ms. Embreese, would you help me with the name of that other county? Inyo? Their county office is a date provider. So we'll need to contract with one of those companies, organizations.
So do the date providers provide reports to boards, or do they just provide data to the district?
I would assume that
They would
give
provide
board-
reports?
Yeah. Or they would provide them for us to provide.
Yeah, I would like
give.
to see that. Accountability cuts both ways, Kendall?
Oh, yeah.
I believe that was the same question Mr. Kim had on regards to the tutoring services
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
provide to our students.
Thank you.
Anything else? No? Thank you.
One of the things that I want to add to the MOU that we've requested that you approve, I can give you many reasons, but my primary reasons that the staff and I have shared is that we would have local experts in the different areas of academic improvement at our immediate access. It's not something that we would have to travel to San Diego for, to San Francisco, to Phoenix. It's something that's here. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't have any other professional developments out of county. But if Mrs. Lopez, for example, wanted to have a dialogue with someone from the county and have them come out to her school to address a particular issue of academic achievement, it would be at her disposal, and it's 10 miles away. It provides us the opportunity to brainstorm with the county with what works with our particular population, because what works in Imperial County is not exactly what may or may not work in a county that does not have our population. And the networking and professional exchange that we would have with other people throughout the valley, other people that have experienced success, and leading into success is the majority, if not all, of the districts that have contracted in one way or another with ICOE over the years have experienced growth throughout. And when we first started this date teams years ago, districts like Calipatria, like McCabe, Imperial, they went with ICOE as their primary provider, and they have had immediate, ongoing, consistent, and sustainable achievement over the years. And so, if it isn't broke, why fix it? We know that we have gaps in our system. Do we have the levels of expertise with our staff? Absolutely. Does our staff need different levels of professional development? Absolutely. And one of the things that I could say is that if we go through the county, it would be at our immediate access to get the assistance that we need. Mr. Cooper mentioned that, he feels that the county was instrumental in our difficulties that we experienced last year, that they weren't as helpful or as forthcoming as they should have been. That may be the issue, but in looking beyond whether it's a personality issue with individuals at ICOE, whether it's I'm just going to leave it at that. It may be personality issues with people at ICOE towards our district, but the reality is that I want to go beyond any one or two individuals' personality issues that they have with us for the betterment of our district, because they do have a team of people who can help us get the academic improvement that we need as a district. It's kind of like that, and I may not have the right saying, but it's like saying, and somebody may want to help me here, you're going to be a better preacher in another land. So do we have to go to another land out of county to realize that we have great resources in our own radius? We should be able to access Doreen Johnson and Lupita Holguin and Kiana Givens and Juan Cruz, and I can go on, and we should be able to access the level of professional development expertise that they can broker for us at a much lower cost than if we try to broker it on our own. To get people like Kate Kinsella, Ernie Mendez down here at our own cost would be tremendous. And if we broker it through Imperial County Office of Education, it would be a tremendous savings versus a greater expense. We did look at a couple of other organizations, and one primarily we actually visited in the summer, E&I. They would do just about everything that ICOE would do for us at a higher price, a few $1,000s more, but a lot less personal service. All of the contacts that ICOE commits to doing with us, they would do except via Skype. They would do via email, via chat. Our teachers in the classroom don't need somebody, here, hold on, class, let me turn on my computer so I can get some professional development from somebody in Phoenix. You know what? We can have Kiana Givens come out from the county and provide us that support here. I know that Dr. Lanusa already works closely with Lupita Holguin and the rally, with CRLA, I believe. So, and they're doing that that staff has committed to do that on their Bankable Tuesdays. So our school sites already has close relationships with the county and different individuals within the county. I would like for us to look beyond what one individual's perceived feelings towards us are for the betterment of our community. And that's my...
Okay, Madam President, I think we not jump into the item F yet, and I have some question for the API AYP to the superintendent, and you didn't give us chance to asking.
No, we haven't moved forward, Mr.
Yes.
Kim. You still have time.
Yes.
She was just expressing her.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, I've been seeing especially four school is been kept going up, which is Rockwood and Maine, Jefferson, and College School High School. That's four schools that I believe they're going up their API scores. And what we made probably about 2 months ago about the QI program, the going down, which is affecting the Rockwood School and Main School. Is there any chance we might gonna have those kind of increasement of the APIs going down because we increase the class size? And I was expressed the last time after showing the number, almost it doesn't cost us anything to keep the QI system in the school because 500 from the 800,000 and 500,000 we get money from the state, and now we have to have a dealing about 300,000. But don't forget, we're gonna be decrease the catering grant because we increase the class of the Maine and Rockwood. So we're gonna have a more penalizing from catering grant. So almost doesn't cost us anything to keep the KIOS program in the Rockwood Main School. We have to reconsider to hire more teacher in those two schools to keep the program. Actually, doesn't cost us almost nothing. We have to be cautiously to look into before we're too late. Is that any did you looking through the question I had the last time?
No, Mr. Kinnem, I have not researched your Kia question yet.
Yes, but okay, please do that. Do so because if we late, it's gonna be very hard to turn around. But it's almost my figure is almost doesn't cost us the school districts.
I will look into it before the board meeting of November the 8th. That's when I was planning to bring it back to you on November the 8th.
Thank you.
That would be appropriate. Everybody voted, right? Yes on 30. Okay, so any more questions, board members, on item number E?
Excuse me.
And also,
Number E? Okay.
yeah, a little bit. Also, there are several schools they're going down every years. Is there any chance we can have you have some planning for the investigating or study for the preventing going down for?
That is part of our continuous research in our data. It's part of what we're going to do, what we do as a team with Dr. Estrada and Dr. Spencer in terms of looking at our school data, looking at what is included in the school site plans and what the principals are doing with their teachers. And so that's something that is consistently going on.
Yeah.
Will there be different elements embedded into our plans for this coming school year or the next coming school year? Absolutely, but that's just something that would come up in another board meeting.
How long gonna take? I know you are recently took over. So how long gonna take to make the plan to prevent those kind of downfalls of the API?
It's an ongoing plan, Mr. Kim. I can't tell you that it's a plan that you would. I could, as a team, we could draft a plan for the next meeting or the meeting after that.
Okay.
But it's not a plan that's set in stone for one day. It's something that you develop and you continue to revisit, and
Yes,
you
I understand
you
that.
revise as needed.
Yes, I understand that. At least we have a plan to start it, and then during the plan goes on, maybe we can change the directions.
Okay.
Thank you.
These are the plans, right? Yeah, we have the LEA plans that Ms. Spencer had said. They're ongoing plans, and the goal is to achieve the scores that we need. Therefore, they've been working on that, and she explained that last year we really didn't go too much into it because of the financial instability, financial constraints that we had. So this year we're trying, as you can see, we have approved a lot of professional development training for the teachers to go out to conferences and stuff. Now, if they're not bringing back that knowledge, we have a problem because we're spending money for people to go out and and the knowledge is not coming back in. So we're not getting anything in return, but I'm sure and that they are, because every single school did increase, whether the chart showed that it didn't. In a way, it did increase. We did increase.
Oh, good things you remember. You brought that one back. Is there we have any weekends program for the using that time for the staff develop plan to even pay the teacher with the fund to retraining them to what they learn from out of the convention to share with the fellow teachers.
Okay, Maria.
Okay.
I know that different schools have their teams of teachers helping each other out. I know that, for example, the teachers at Jefferson provide support to each other when they come back from their trainings on technology. I know that the teachers at Rockwood have an ongoing professional development going on with the rally, which is basically with CRLA and the literacy, and it's ongoing. And they help each other out. It's every other Tuesday. And I can go on and list what different schools do. So they do work as teams with their knowledge gained at their different workshops and their different professional development opportunities that they have. Do they have something that goes out district-wide? I don't think that anybody has done that. But I do know that individual school sites maximize on the opportunities, the learning opportunities that their teachers have had within the members of their staff.
That that's what I'm requesting. That if state-wise, why don't we do district-wide for the take some Saturday, to we can share all the schools together, not only one school to follow them. Okay. And also, if we have to pay them, do we have a fund from the staff development funds we can spend that?
That's something that we can look into.
Please.
I had a question along.
Ms. Aguilar had
Okay.
some, I mean, Ms. Romo had a question.
Not a problem.
Sorry.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you. Mrs. Ambriz, in my opinion, the plan, corrective plan must be from the inside out, but it's very important, in my opinion, involve all teachers, all principal, all teachers, and parents too, because it's year and year and year and year is very poor. The statistics is very necessary involve the parents and all teachers in the next plan, corrective plan.
Yes, the corrective plan that we have to provide, that we have to work on from the state, it already tells us what we need to do. Do we include the teachers? Yes, we do. Do we include our administrators? Yes, we do. And is there a place to include parents? Absolutely. We would be doing that through our school site council. We would be doing that through any special meetings. And one of the things that Mrs. Aguilar, our trustee, brought forth in the last couple of months of our previous school year, and that she's touched upon again a few weeks ago, was to have site-specific town hall type meetings where you would have, for example, I'm going to pick on Kennedy Gardens. If Mrs. Ramirez has a town hall meeting at Kennedy, it would be based on information for Kennedy parents, to not just see the bars and the graphs that I have provided, but so that they can say, okay, mathematics was an area of weakness in this grade. This is what we can offer as a school. How do we help you parents help your children in mathematics? And we would have mathematics nights, etc. And that's part of that kind of grew from the plan that Mrs. Aguilar had proposed late last spring, and that she brought up yet again a few weeks ago. And that is something that I know our principals welcome the opportunity, because it gives them the opportunity to speak, dialogue, and create a relationship with their parents. Okay?
It's possible different corrective plans for different schools because it's a very different population in Cesar Chavez and Mains and whatever school. And the leaders are the principals. It's for the leader for each school. And it's very different people, very different grades, whatever. But I would like here for the all principal for the next meeting and for different plans for each school. Is possible?
All of them?
Yeah, it's yes.
Report to us on a monthly.
How many principal is here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I think that we
Whatever.
could provide we
Principal.
can provide an avenue for our principals, our school leaders, to present the information that is needed. I would suggest that we not do it in a regular board meeting, that we do it in either a town hall meeting or in a retreat style meeting. But I don't think that that a regular board meeting would be sufficient time for us to receive and assimilate the amount of information that every single one of our leaders could provide you. Because every school has different needs, and they have very similar needs. And so regardless of the population that they have. And so yes, where Mains may be working more on numeracy in mathematics, and Ms. Ramirez may be working more on language literacy, that doesn't mean that they both don't have needs for English learners or for your different subgroups. So yes, every individual plan, every school has their site plan, every school has their single plan for student achievement, and in there they will delineate what their plans are. Mm-hmm. And that's what they will bring to the table. But for us to ask every single principal to present on the same night, I think would be a disservice not only to each one of our principals, it would be a disservice to the community, because whereas you may pay attention to Mr. Padilla in the first 15 minutes, by the time you get to the 9th or 10th principal, this room will be empty.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a disservice to the investment of time that our administrators would put into giving you the plan that you need, because we do need that plan, but that doesn't mean that they're not doing it. It just means that for them to present it to you, that we need to provide them the proper arena to do so.
I agree.
Okay, so,
I have a little more question. What I understanding.
May I ask my questions, please?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Norma
please.
and
I'm
Kim.
sorry. Thank you. Along the lines with a topic that Mr. Kim brought up earlier, I like one of the things that I thought about was some of our school sites had significant increases in specific areas, and I thought along the lines of what he was talking about, providing training, but not necessarily district-wide. But say, for example, if you've got a school that their strength was in one area and the other one is a little bit weaker in that area, perhaps maybe, say, for example, Mains could, in a professional development day for another school site, could be there, and that can be shared, some of like a kind of best practices sharing, not necessarily has to be the whole day thing, and it's integrated into the whole professional development and vice versa. That's all.
Mr. Kim?
Yes. Okay. First of all, it's a certain level. The Ms. Aguilar was saying is some school some school they gonna need own necessary. But what I'm saying from the convention they learn, they have a lack of broad information they have. So they might gonna need interest to have everybody learn, and also the same time maybe if we can open to even the parents, they can come. Of course, they're not gonna get paid. But they can come to look at learning. So parents' education is very important of the part of our education too. they can teach the kid, or they can deal with the kid how they can do it. So maybe open to the public too, so everybody has knowledge on those areas. That's my main purpose.
No, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, Mr. Kim, on that, and with all of the board suggestions. But maybe what I may ask the principals to do is send me, which I will share with the rest of you, or they could even send them to you directly, however you wish, is a list of the things that they do extraordinarily beyond the regular school day. Because I know that a lot of our principals already do similar activities. You know, we do have math night, we do have language arts night, we do have science night. I mean, our principals and our teachers go way beyond the school day to provide opportunities. And math nights, not to have the kids there, but to have the parents there, so they can say, this is what we're doing in the classroom. Let us show you some of our lessons. Let us show you how you can help your students at home. And I know that all of, I won't say all of our principals, but the majority of our principals have these types of activities going on at their schools. And so what I will do is I will have our principals provide me a list of those events and activities that they have, so that you can see what they already do offer the school, the school community, and that way we can offer them assistance or suggestions above and beyond what they're already providing.
Yeah, okay. I was saying about the convention they learn from the outside. I'm not talking about the school, what they're doing.
Well, I understand, and that's perfect. But I think that what they learn in professional development is what our teachers are implementing in the classroom with our students.
Yes.
And I think it's in the strategies and in the application that our students are benefiting with the teachers going to these technology conferences or any other professional development opportunities outside of the district.
That's what I'm saying. That whatever they learn from the outside of the convention, they can come to share to all the teachers, even the parents in the district-wide, at some Saturday session, whatever. We need to train them.
We will look into that.
Okay. And the other one is, I learned this. We still have some of the classroom with the sub-teachers still there.
That's not on our agenda for tonight, Mr.
Okay,
Kim. I'm sorry.
but API, what I'm trying to say, if we have it to try to taking care of that one, that's what's going to be increasing our API scores, of course.
And I understand, and we can put that on our agenda for, if you email me that or call Mrs. Burgos, we can put that on the agenda for November the 8th for discussion.
No,
Okay.
I'm not trying to go to some issues, some classroom issues. What I'm saying, what I know that, so we can prevent that one to increase the API.
No, absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. If we can put it on a regular agenda meeting, it's a topic that the board can discuss.
We can discuss it at this time.
And make
Yes, I understand
decisions
that.
based on that.
Okay. I call for the question.
Hello?
Oh,
Never mind, that's fine. That's fine.
Mr. Valenzuela, you've been very quiet. I'm curious to see what you're going to question.
No,
Go
no, you
ahead.
know what, I just, I wanted to address this to our superintendent, that I do think along the lines of Mrs. Aguilar, that with the schools with the most improvement, the most growth, we should look into some of those schools and their leadership to provide assistance to the schools with the least growth, and collaborate, like Mrs. Aguilar mentioned. I do agree with that. That might be something that we can look into, and there's a reason why these other school sites are growing, more than other school sites. And I understand what Mrs. Romo said. Every part of the city is different. We have different groups of students, but it's something to think about. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item F, recommended actions. We have one speaker, Mr. Cooper.
I think every one of you school board members has friends in the classroom that are teachers in Calexico Unified. I'd like you all to talk to them about why they think the scores are the way they are. I can also tell you it's not the parents, it's not the teachers, it's not the school board, it's not the administration that takes these high-stakes tests. these kids. And we got to figure out a way to motivate the kids to take the test. We got to help the kids learn. Talk to teachers about how to help kids learn. When the school board stripped tutoring from the classroom, it's the number one reason why. Teachers, when I ask why did the scores go down, and they're like, well, no duh, we can't tutor the kids falling behind anymore. And even this year, we're told we need 15 students. It's a lot of people to recruit for after-school tutoring. So then you get a teacher that can work some days, can't work the others, depending on how many students show up. I really invite all of you people on the school board to talk to teachers you trust one by one, on what they think about the scores. Please. And we got to figure out a way to motivate these kids. If we're going to obsess about these tests, which I think is a bad idea, I know it might be mandated by law, just like QIA is mandated by law, but we ignore the class size provision of that in Calexico. We might need to ignore some of these laws also. They're bad for kids, some of these laws. Our kids are successful despite their bad circumstances that some of them are in. Also, parent nights, I like them, but you know who you end up talking to at parent nights? Parents like Ms. Ambrose. The best parents. Who do we not reach? The kids that are living in motels, and they take the same test. The kids that move from apartment to apartment. So I know you have to do this because the law says you have to do this, but let's not obsess about this. Let's give teachers time. Mr. Kim's got good ideas about me training other teachers. That's a lot to ask for a teacher. My job is to train 13 and 14-year-olds on U.S. history. Training other teachers? Ms. Ambrose might be right. That might be somebody else's job in life. And asking me to come to work on Saturday, you're going to end up with unmotivated teachers if we whip them too hard. We got to figure out how to make everybody happier in the classroom. That's what Mr. Kim says all the time. So please include teachers, and the best way to find out what a teacher thinks is to ask them. I know what I think, what went on in my classroom. Growth, Mr. Valenzuela. If you're already at a high level, it's a lot harder for an Olympic athlete to improve than somebody who's not at the Olympic level. So I don't want to hold up one school above the other. And teachers already do share their best lessons. And most schools in this district have PLC time. What PLC is, getting together and talking about what works, what doesn't work. And I haven't seen a lot of you in the classroom last year or this year. I don't take it as an insult, but some of my colleagues do when you suggest things that we're already doing. So just let's keep that in mind also, because what we don't want is a demoralized workforce, okay? So if you're going to approve this, that's your prerogative, but it's still the students that have to take the test. And what are we doing to make life easier for the students? Telling them that they get tutoring canceled when only 14 people show up? Talk to teachers about things that we can do to improve things, and talk to any of them. They'll give you good ideas that don't come up at the school board. Why? Because they're at home with their own families tonight. And being like parents like Ms. Ambrose that we'll see on math night at my school. We won't see the ones that are living in motels and addicted to drugs and things like that. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
But this opinion for the teacher. I needed to hear for the principals, for administrators. What is the silence? Okay,
Well,
nothing. That's
Item F.
okay? That's okay for the principal? That's okay?
well, Mrs. Romo, there has been meetings that we have had where ACT has not
No,
been
it's
present.
very important, the
So they can't give
participation.
input on something when they don't show up to the
No.
meetings.
It's very important, the participation for all people. And this moment is very important, the participation for the ACT, for the all teachers, for the other opinion, for the candidates, for the principal. It's very important. What is that your opinion?
What are
Nothing.
you asking, Mrs. Romo?
This is,
What are you asking?
is the, okay, API and IYP is, the reason is for this meeting only, okay? I need here what is the opinion for the principal. Nothing. Sorry.
Well, tonight's meeting is to hear the scores.
Yeah, but it's very important, in my opinion,
Well, it's
for opinion for the leaders. Is in my opinion, okay? I am board member and I am parent, but all are administrator for Calexico Unified School District. For the number one, the principal is number one leader for each school. This is the result for the each school. What is that your opinion? Nothing, okay?
If you allow us, we'll share.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Go ahead.
Very important. What is the new is ideas?
Mrs. Romo wants
What
to-
is
We didn't
the
have a chance to
resolution?
consult
And-
and kind of summarize our thoughts.
And Ms. Lopez, and that is my question to Ms. Romo, if this was to give
For
a
this
presentation of where this
presentation.
district
Thank you.
stands, we did not give you guys an
What is the
opportunity to make an,
Although-
clarification on your scores.
Right, and I'm Lisa Lopez, by the way, principal at Mains Elementary School, and after hearing all the rich data that you've just shared and all the collaboration and thoughts, I think that the last board meeting, you've already begun that journey with us. Much of our request was tutoring, if I'm not mistaken, one huge request that you just approved last meeting, so we thank you for that. In fact, as soon as it was approved on Thursday, my first thing on the daily bulletin the very next day is the 4 things that you have approved as a board to help our school improve on this data. So tutoring was one of the major concerns, as you've heard from Mr. Cooper, who's just stepped out. The second piece that you have approved, that you have blessed us with, is our Saturday academies. You've just done that for at least Mains Elementary School just last week. That has proven to be very effective for us. I know that we all, at all of our elementary schools, we do these 2 pieces. You also just approved our PLC meetings where you have your leadership team come together, look at data, not just your CSTs, because it's only one piece of a puzzle. You still have your benchmark assessments that you have ongoing. You also have your essential standards that you have ongoing. So first, as a team, we look at the data, meaning your leadership team, like your PLC team. And what I mean by PLC leaders is at every grade level, you have a representative who comes to a meeting where just these leaders and the principal meet. We look at data and we say, hey, what did we do? Great. Let's give ourselves, like he said, let's celebrate. And the second thing is we do look at data with those eyes of what could we do better? And we look to our partners. I tell Cesar Chavez all the time, hey, I want to learn what you guys are doing. Can we send a couple of teachers to your school? And he says, sure, send them right over. Or I'll send our technician to Alberto, our technician, go to Mr. Padilla and say, hey, what are you guys doing with technology? Let's go steal their ideas. So I want you to know that we are doing that. And last but most importantly, you also approved last week for us, so you approved 4 big items for us. The PLC conference that's going to be hosted in February in Phoenix, which helps us as not only teachers, but as administrators to come together at the table and say, you know, we could have done that better. But the beautiful part about February is that you will learn how to do it better as a team. Instead of having 1, 2, like Mr. Kim says, having 1, 2, or 3 people go out, bring it back. It's sometimes very hard to continue to meet and teach others what you just learned. When you send a large team, it's much more available for the school site to actually implement it. So you've done that for us. So those are the 4 big things that you have done: tutoring, Saturday academies, PLC, and the PLC conference. That will help us ensure that sustainability that Mrs. Umbris has talked about throughout her presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Ms. Lopez, that's exactly the kind of things that, as board members, in my personal opinion, that we need to hear. That's the first time I hear, like, for example, now I feel kind of like, oh, well, duh, you're already doing it, yeah. But did we know that?
We did approve them last week, you guys. You need to read your agendas.
I know.
So we wanted to say, on behalf of all of our principals here, thank you. And keep looking out for those things because they're going to be coming on your agendas very shortly. The other schools are going to be sending theirs too, so don't forget to say yes.
Elisa Ramirez Kennedy, principal. Ours should be on the agenda on our next board meeting, just so you know it's coming up. And in addition to what Ms. Lopez said, all of that, I'm getting to know my staff, getting to know what are their needs. We looked at data, and I told them to reflect on what was done that year, which was 2008, I believe, that they grew a lot. And some of the comments were that there was a lot of more support in the schools. For example, today they were telling me that for RTI, they actually had one person pull out, for example, our newcomers, and they worked separately, whereas right now during our RTI, we have the newcomers mixed with our FPBs, and it's totally different situation. So do we focus on teaching them the language, or are we looking for the academics? So they're struggling, and they're trying to regroup our students, even though we started already. All of them have asked me for support in RTI and ELD. What happens in ELD? We look at a very basic program that we're using. How do we take it to the next level? We've been told, take it to the next level, but what does that look like? What does it feel like? So they want training on ELD. They want more training on RTI, what other intervention programs they can use. So we are working with that. We're very limited, like I say, with what little time we have with collaboration, but we're moving into that direction.
Good. Thank you.
Gabby Williams, Willie Moreno. A little bit of both of what Liseth and Elisa mentioned. Although
You wound her. How
So
dare
sorry.
you forget?
See, you lost me again. But although I was as a lot of you know, I was at Willie Moreno for 6 years. I'm also in that phase. We're getting to know the staff. But some of the things we've already accomplished, and more so in the last couple of weeks, is that we have met and we have, as a staff meeting and as leadership team, we have met, I want to say 4 to 5 times, and we have looked at our data, and as you were able to see today, we did have a significant drop in our API, and we broke down the data into our subgroups and strands, and we actually just had a leadership meeting, a follow-up to another meeting on analyzing and looking at our data. And what our teams did was they broke down our data and analyzed and identified those areas that need improvement. One of the areas that they all agreed, all department leads, was writing strategies. We were able to see a pattern within the last couple of years that is an area in need of improvement for both 7th and 8th graders. And so they on their own, they decided, you know what, as a school-wide, we need to adopt a writing program. Some of the language arts teachers said, I said, well, we have one to step up to writing, but it's only being used in language arts. So all of them, what they did in the proposal to the staff was, let's all buy into it, into the Step Up to Writing program. Let's focus on, certain writing strategies, and let's all do it. If we all do it in a period 1 class, all of our students are going to get covered or exposed to those writing strategies. Right now, we are transitioning, and my staff is encouraging and excited. We want to go into an advisory mode. The other need that has been expressed by my staff is the need to establish and address a lot of personal needs from our students due to lack of counseling services and other support services that we have for our students. They say we need to build a relationship and provide some type of counseling for our students. We have AR already embedded into period 1. What we're looking into doing and starting in 3 weeks is creating an assembly schedule where we build a period 1 and that advisory period, and then using that time to provide some kind of cover other topics with our students, and a different opportunity for our teachers to get to know their students on a personal or a different level. In that advisory period, they're going to focus on writing strategies. Math now. We've also met, and they are putting together a presentation for the staff. And everybody, again, the buy-in is there where the entire staff agreed and said these are the areas of needs in math and one of the basics, most basic skills our kids are lacking is they don't know how to multiply. So all of our teachers will start teaching, basic multiplication tables to our students in an advisory period. We are moving into in our PLCs, PLC days. One of the areas that was also suggested and expressed to me that we need some help with was refining our agendas and not just looking at our data, but coming up with proposed solutions. What do we do? How do we move by? Once we look at our data, then what are we going to do about it? And so I've been working with the department chairs in that area in the last couple of weeks. So we've had a language arts parent night 2-3 weeks ago. We had algebra parent night for our first group of 7th graders that are taking Algebra 1 ever at Willie Moreno. They did a Jeopardy type of competition for the parents where the kids exhibit their math skills and showed what they've learned so far. And after that, the parents went into the classrooms and teachers provided them with information on CST's grading and grading policy and how they can support their child at home. We're moving forward with science and the PL students and other departments. But parent outreach is another area that we're working. We want to make we have some goals and we want to make some improvements at Willie Moreno.
Ms. Williams, how much parent participation did you have on that algebra class?
We had, out of 2 sections of Algebra 1 students, 60 students enrolled, we had a little bit less than 30 parents, half of them. And that was for the Jeopardy game piece of the night. For the second piece, which is all of our math parents, we had approximately 80-something parents. 7th graders, and 8th graders gearing up for their night in November.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. 3 women.
Mrs.
Only
Roma, I
3
see you
women.
smiling now. Are you satisfied? Or do you want more principals too?
Okay. 1 man.
It's always polite to let ladies go first. Very proper. I'd just like to add and share that I think that research will support always that the most important factor, as much as the things that have already been shared, and I'm going to concur with several of them, most important factor will always be what you accomplish during the school day. And so an incredible focus on planning, on establishing school-wide systems that'll be consistent, working with your staff, and what are we going to do from 8 to 3. And certainly, a lot of the extra things that you do can be important, but your 8 to 3 is your one shot to get everyone. So a lot of planning, a lot of building systems around for that will give you huge, will give you the most bang for your buck. With that comes staff development. And so with that, because staff development will transfer to what you do day to day from 8 to 3. I like to provide my oral support for not only the staff development that is being proposed here for tonight, that you'll be here for a vote. I am in huge favor of it. I want to thank the board for their support in professional learning communities, which I'm a huge advocate for. I think that I would continue to ask the board to continue to focus and allow this district to go into very concentrated efforts in ongoing support for staff development, not only in professional learning communities, for technology, not to expand yourself too wide, but keeping it concentrated on those efforts that we have begun and continue to support it ongoing, not only for PLCs and for technology, but also looking at a huge emphasis in what's most glaringly needed what the data says, which is staff development for our English learners. I think tonight represents a wonderful step in the right direction towards English learners. I'm sure that that'll be something that we can continue to supplement with other areas to continue to work with English learners, and I know that we can have great conversations and seeing how hopefully we can move forward with that first step, and how do we continue to add more to that very targeted and obvious need that we need to have. So again, from my point of view, working with your staff and what are we going to do every day to continuously improve on and build upon from 8 to 3, and that is really accomplished within your PLCs. How can we continue to motivate students through engaging them through technology and moving forward with efforts for more training for all of us in how to move forward with English learners.
Good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. Mr. Nunez?
Norberto Nunez, Principal at South Chavez School. Really quickly, as you can see the data from tonight, I think if you the one thing that stands out the most if we're looking at our data as a district is our EL learners. And obviously, we know as a district that that's always been our biggest concern. It still continues to be a concern. We are growing as a district. We make tremendous growth, but as you can see, that particular group is still bringing us down as far as we look at our scores. That they're improving, they are, which is great. And just looking at our ELD program here as a district, I can tell you right now, just based on just talking with people like from Brawley, because I have somebody working in Brawley, we're way ahead of the game. I mean, you figure half an hour away, they speak more English and all that, but they do have significant ELD problems over there. And just speaking to people that work there, I mean, we're way ahead of the game as far as we have actual programs here within the district that we adopted a couple of years ago. But one of the big things I see with my staff and just talking to my staff is that we have these programs. But when you look at these programs, they're very cut and dry. So it's to the point, and if you really just follow that to the point, a 40-minute ELD class could be done in 10 to 15 minutes. So one of the things that we're always looking for is keeping our teachers on their toes as far as giving them strategies where they can implement into their ELD program and take that lesson and just make it a better lesson for our kids. I mean, and not just repeating and just follow the cookbook style, but expand it and make it more meaningful for our students, build that vocabulary and all that. So I think by working with these people and offering this staff development for our teachers, we're hoping that we continue to have our teachers grow these strategies. The other big thing right now is, of course, Common Core. And part of the standards, also the ELD standards, are changing. So I think one of my biggest concern also is making sure that we're guiding in the right direction as far as the ELD Common Core standards, because we haven't seen them yet. The county or these outside agencies are working with the state. They're being trained on them. They're seeing what they are, what they entail, and we're hoping that when these people, whoever we work with, they'll guide us in the right direction. Okay? Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Nunez. Mr. Lanusa. Dr. Lanusa.
You can call me Fred. Thank you so much. Fred Lanusa, principal at Rockwood Elementary School. At the beginning of the school year, we did a needs assessment, and we did a survey to all the staff. And that was backed with the data that was available at that moment. Based on that survey and the needs assessment that we were able to collect, we created certain programs that I've been helping with. For instance, we're trying to do a much more balanced literacy framework. That means I expect a lot more read-alouds, guided reading, shared reading, and as well as independent reading as opposed to accelerated reading and the writing components. And the teachers, some of them are attending a brand new university. We started at Rockwood, we call it the Rockwood University, so that every Wednesday, every Tuesday from 3 to 4, we meet and we discuss strategies, we discuss methodologies, we discuss curriculum, we focus in on certain aspects in terms of what the data is doing. And usually it's the instructional team leaders who attend these meetings. We are also very, very blessed to have a great staff, because many of them are staying as volunteers. And we're not waiting for the funds. We know it's very necessary right now, so we're doing a lot of tutoring after school for the FBBs. And that we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday for an hour after school. We are also, I wanted to do rally. And rally is something that I read about all summer. And the more I read about it and how it fell in place with not just Kinsella, but Calderon and Rosinski, and of course the old Cummins and the older generational English language researchers, I felt that this was especially what we needed, because this year at the very get-go, we discussed that English language acquisition was going to be our focus, above and beyond anything. And so we started a system where we are rewarding students for reading and for speaking English outside of their classroom, through lottery tickets, through prizes, through recognition events, so that we are also including a lot of parental involvement, where we are creating a brand new parent center, and we are creating programs so that parents could be much more involved. The reason I showed up late tonight, for instance, was because of a parent meeting. I'm having several parent meetings. I want the parents to understand that the education of their children is the most important thing right now, and that we have the best teachers, we have the best school district, we have the best programs, the best board, we have everything here. And I want them to understand that, because we do our part at school, we want them to do their part at home. And so when I think about Rally, we're very blessed, thank you board for approving it, because that means that not only 6 teachers are going to be attending, but the entire school. Every teacher will be receiving this training throughout the whole year, and this training is going to be customized for Rockwood Elementary School. And we are also going to be receiving, as part of the deal, the classroom support, so that we're not just learning the theoretical aspects of it, but also the practicum, and being able to develop specific strategies regarding the 3 methods of reading, and the strategies to be able to teach them how to read complex text. But we are also blessed because we're sending 8 teachers to the PLC conference in Arizona. And I think that's going to be wonderful. Thinking about CCSS, well, you know, we know that in 2014 we're going to be doing assessments and a lot of more work on computers. And actually today, as I walked into a few classrooms, I did see some students using paper and pencil. I'm just kidding. But my dream, and maybe, you know, maybe now is a good time to announce it, is to have a one-to-one educational technology program at Rockwood as a pilot for the entire Calexico Unified School District. Because you talk about poverty, you talk about hotels. There was one night I couldn't find a hotel room, and I actually found one, and some of my students were there, and it's a place I would not want to spend the second night at. So yes, our student population has high poverty, and I think it's a very needy population that really, really needs they need to learn keyboarding skills, researching skills, all the writing components to a balanced literacy framework. And I think doing it through a computer program, that would be wonderful. And thank you, because thanks to the board, now we're going to have not 1, but 2 brand new computer laboratories at Rockwood. Brand new computers, thanks to all of you, and all of our teachers are receiving computers. So we're really looking forward to that. Also, thanks to all of you, we are developing a Visual and Performing Arts Academy through our ACES program and after school. And this was something that I had discussed with Mr. Fergali last year, and he was totally for it. Gloria Salaya supported it, and I think this year we have all the support systems in place. But students learn by singing, by dancing, by acting, by memorizing Shakespeare, by being able to act what they are reading about, to be able to dance the history that they're talking about, to be able to sing. You know, when the FPM team came to talk to many of our students, they would ask, what is it, do you know who your principal is? I mean, not to gloat, I don't mean to show off or anything, but one of the things they said, no, I just want to share with you, because this almost made me cry. Many of our students, this is what the team told me, that many of our students said, yes, we know our principal, his name is Dr. Lanuza, and we like him because he allows us to sing and dance. Yeah. Think about that. You want kids to be excited about school? You know what made me stay in school was music. I could have dropped out. So many of our students need the arts. You know, I'm watching TV in my hotel room sometimes, and I see commercials about El Centro School District and all the arts programs they have. And sometimes when I was at Willie Moreno, I would ask them, where are they going to high school? And they say they're going to El Centro. And I say, why? Because they have fine arts programs and we don't. Well, this is an opportunity for us to do it. And if we can fund it through ACES, why not? This would be a wonderful experience. And I also want to say that I endorse the ICOE helping us out. They have wonderful, wonderful people. All the names you mentioned are, you know, great colleagues of ours. They all come from Calexico, from Unified School District.
Yes, they do.
And this is still a great school district, and I know we can become greater. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Demian?
Liliana Dimian from Dual School. I'm not sure if I'm the last one, and I'm not sure that's because I'm the most experienced. Not to go in other details, but thank you for giving us the opportunity. Just like my colleagues were saying before, thank you for approving some of our requests. I can tell you that you did approve almost $60,000 in money to spend on tutoring after school. So if you calculate by hour, that means a lot of hours for our students, and the staff has been delighted, particularly the fact that they can start so early in the year, not later on. Also, to answer some of the Mrs. Romo's question, if I understood them correctly, about collaborating with each other, and actually Mr. Valenzuela too. My academic support teacher and technician went to Mr. Padilla's school to learn more about how he uses the technology in the classrooms. One of my questions, but they didn't answer my question, was can you find out from him how does he do it that he gets more money approved for technology than I do? Because he does have more computers than I do and more responders, and particularly more iPads that our students would like to. But seriously, they came back very enthused about what they saw in technology. And in fact, to show you that it did help our school, one of our teachers that's new in our school, Mrs. Martinez, had asked if she could have half a day to prepare staff development with our technician to teach the other teachers how to use the responders. And I had a conversation with Dr. Spencer, and thank you, Dr. Spencer. I've been in Dr. Spencer's office quite often. I think by now she's ready to very politely send me back to the school. But she did approve, and another thing I need to thank you is that when we do need substitute for staff development at school, Dr. Spencer has been great in approving that, and she just approved that. So she can prepare and teach the other teachers. This Thursday, we have 3 substitutes that, again, Dr. Spencer approved, that I would meet with every grade level for an hour, so we can discuss how they are looking at data and how are they teaching. It's an in-service from me, if you'd like, in how to use the data and how to use the standards in the classroom for the benefit of the students. We chose not to go to Arizona as a staff, as a leadership team. We chose to go to Anaheim, actually, and you are going to see it coming to for approval at the next meeting. There is a Renaissance conference that it seems to be very interesting, and it's if you want more practical, that deals with how you teach the core standard and how the common core standard align with the California standards and with the materials we have. And my staff felt that something like that, probably more practical, would be beneficial to them. We do have our leadership meetings and PLC somehow, and perhaps it's because my language, we call them more CLC, collaborative learning communities, which is actually the same idea as the professional learning community, which in our school we interpret it as part of a culture. How do you build that culture of collaboration that is going to translate in how we help the students in the classroom? I can go on, but it's really late. And I do appreciate, again, everything you had approved for us and the collaboration with my colleagues. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Mrs. Demian.
Carlos is the
Mr.
last.
Gonzalez.
Is the last principal.
Good evening. Carlos Gonzalez, principal of Enrique Camarena Junior High School. Last but not least, right? First of all, just to piggyback on Ms. Lopez, really thank you. Last year was an incredibly difficult year, and we know it was difficult because financially we were going through a very unprecedented time. But you know, the fact that we are bringing you the needs that we have at school for the purpose of professional development, for the purpose of being able to release teachers and be able to articulate, for the purpose of being able to provide the intervention that our students need once we identify it, that's huge. I mean, that really makes an impact on our students' academic achievement. So, first of all, thank you foremost because of that, because that is truly fundamental to making sure that we have success with our students. At our school, we have a great staff. I mean, when you look at our number of proficiency and advanced students, they're over 50%, both in mathematics and in language arts. Specifically, and I think Mr. Nunez says, you know what, we have to applaud the success that our students have here at Calexico Unified School District when, for example, 75% of the students at Enrique Camarena Junior High School are advanced or proficient in algebra. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, not a lot of school districts can say that 75% of their students are at that level. So I think we need to also celebrate the positive that we have of our sites. Now, when we look at the actual needs of our school, and I think part of that frustration sometimes when we know exactly what our students need, but we can't give them that extra support. And I think maybe that's what Mr. Cooper is talking about, the fact about the tutoring and the intervention. When I mentioned to my staff that I was bringing to the board, and the board had approved the ability for our students to receive the intervention that they needed, it was received with happy faces, with applause. And so I share that with you because you don't hear those stories. And I think our colleagues here, when they get to share with their staff, you know what, guess what? The board just approved the professional development. They approved you going to different conferences. They approved the intervention that our students need. They approved the fact that we can bring you in as a team and articulate. I think that is what you need to hear, that our staff really appreciates. And I think I'm telling you that that's what I get from the Enrique Camarena staff. And I'm sure that if you ask every single school, you will get the same response. And so I just really want to thank you because what you have approved will definitely allow us to make sure that we continue having the academic success that we want for our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. I would just like to say that it's unfortunate that Mr. Cooper did leave because at the beginning of the meeting, he did make some statements in regards to class size, with too many teachers, which he answered himself that we did bring him back. Legal fees, as you can see in our past meetings, we have not had legal here in order to be able to provide to you with those tools. This board has always said, let us know what you need so that we can provide the tools. We will look for the money. And we hear you loud and clear that we spend a lot of money on legal fees, which is not true compared to other boards in the past and the results that we have received from legal in the past. Correct. We have been fortunate to find a good legal firm that has helped us. But besides from that, we have put legal aside, and because of all of our turmoil, all of our main problems have been resolved, not completely, but they have been resolved. And so now we can provide you with the tools. We can provide you with the tutoring, with the ACES program. Next step, in a week, I will be so happy that it'll be over, and we can probably bring more counselors back. I mean, we are listening, and we are providing you. It's taking its time, but in 1 year, this board cleaned up 10 years, and we had to do it. And now the proof is in the pudding. We have principals saying that, thanking this board, which you guys have to be thanked for, because you guys brought forward your needs, and it's coming a reality now, and that's what we're turning to make this district what it was before, the top of the line. We used to be number one in the state of California. We want to be there again. Little by little, we will be taking it up there again. With your assistance and with the staff assistance, everybody, it has to be a full effort. But, I guess Mr. Cooper can see the meeting on the web, the ending part of it. But with that, I move to item number F, and it's the recommended actions. Memorandum of Understanding between Imperial County of Education and Calexico Unified School District for professional development services to improve achievement of English language learners.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Ms. Aguilar, seconded by Mr. Valenzuela. Any discussion?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Kim?
First of all, do we have to have outside of the entity because we are PI3?
We have to have...
Do we have to have outside the entity serving for the low academic students?
Okay, as a PI3 school, as Ms. Dr. Spencer shared with you earlier, because we've been placed as a moderate, is that what it was? A moderate PI3 school. They will more than likely be recommending at the November 7th State Board meeting that we contract with an outside entity.
Not from the inside.
For the DATE, the District Assistance Improvement Team, Intervention Team. But this MOU is not for the DATE. This MOU is specifically to provide us professional development at a local level with ICOE staff and anyone that they broker with us. And of course, the brokerage fees would be above and beyond that, but the reality is the level of service that we would be getting is to help us with addressing the needs of English learners. This is just one facet of what we're asking for. The DATE team will be something separate. So if we, as a district, we will look at the providers list. If we're required to get a provider, we will look at the providers list throughout the state, and then as a district and as a board, we would make a recommendation to the board who we would go with. And ICOE may be somebody that may be an entity that we bring forth, or any other one that is on the team. I'm sorry, on the state list that would be willing and able to provide Calexico great levels of expertise. Well, the MOU is one thing and the DATE is another. And when we get to the DATE, I could definitely provide different or more additional information. We did do West Ed as a support provider a few years ago, and when they were here to provide the service, our schools did demonstrate improvement. My question now is, was it sustainable improvement? If we are back in different levels of PI, then I would venture to say that there wasn't sustained improvement. Why? Because when West Ed walked away, so did the
Expertise.
the consistent monitoring and the levels of expertise that we could be gaining, individually. And our teachers have great levels of expertise, but there has to be constant, ongoing professional development, constant, ongoing monitoring.
Why cannot do our own then? You said we have great teachers.
But we need help.
Yes, we do, but we do need professional development so that, because our teachers are so busy in the classroom and they are working above and beyond. They're working hard. Our principals have told you what
Mr.
they
Cooper
do.
said that too.
What they do beyond the school day. And for a teacher can go and train another teacher, but if we want systemic improvement, we all need to be talking the same language. And if we want systemic improvement, we need to tie it not only to the English learners, but how it's going to impact us with Common Core standards that's coming down the line not too far from now, and how we're going to embed both of them together to help to address the Common Core standards district-wide, and how that embeds with our English learners. Because as you can see with the different presentations you heard tonight, and what the principals spoke about tonight, and what Mr. Cooper spoke about tonight, is that we have a great need, and our English learners is the population that is needing the most support.
What is good? We have academic support teachers.
Again, academic support teachers are a great support for our school sites, but in order for them to provide even better support, better consistent support to their teachers, to their teacher colleagues at every site, they need the most updated professional development that they can receive, because not one academic support teacher has the expertise to provide every single teacher or every single staff with the needed professional development. I don't know everything. Like Mr. Padilla doesn't know everything, but Mr. Padilla knows a whole lot more than I do about certain things. And I know that I know a lot more in other areas than he does. We can do this. However, how we disseminate that to the rest of the staff is going to be key. And in order for us to get better professional development, we do need to seek the assistance of the county.
So we actually, the simple word, we need instructor of the instructor to instruct the teachers.
Trainer of trainers.
Yes, trainers.
I call for the question.
Okay, question has been called. I have a motion by Ms. Aguilar, seconded by Mr. Valenzuela. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Hi.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. It is 9:47, and I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Before we close, I would like to direct the board and the community to look at our back wall. We've noticed in the past year or so that there hasn't been any bulletin board activity that highlights our schools. And thank you to Dr. Estrada's leadership and gathering of the photos, etc. The lights on celebration through the ACES program is being highlighted in the back of our boardroom. Thank you.
And since the board meeting has already adjourned, I do want to share with the principals, please keep in mind that part of my outreach with San Diego State is in literacy. So please feel welcome to ask me to come and read or participate in your literacy efforts. That also extends to junior high as well. Thanks.
This meeting is officially adjourned.